Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm joined today by Tony Roberts, who is the Vice President, UK and Europe of Princess Cruises. And you've joined me a number of times, Tony, but this is actually a pretty momentous occasion because you're just about to start sailing again. After many, many months. Of course, Princess was right at the heart, right in the spotlight of the pandemic when it first emerged over in Asia. So I guess this must be a very important milestone for you.
Yeah, absolutely, Lucy. This is, first of all, thanks for having me on. This is, a huge moment, I think, for the whole of the UK team for Princess Cruises as we return to sailing. And as you say, we've spoken many times throughout the whole crisis and the pandemic. And Princess was the first major cruise line to start a voluntary pause back in March of 2020. So a long time ago, over 500 days ago now, when we first paused. And at the time, we thought we were going to be pausing for 60 days. And yet here we are 500 days later, just over, and we are returning to sailing from the UK from Saturday.
Yeah, and we shouldn't underestimate the involvement you had right at that really difficult time, Tony. You were, I believe, in Miami dealing with a couple of the ships, actually the two that are going to be sailing in the UK, but we'll come on to that. But just tell us what it was like. I know it's a long time ago now, but just to sort of explain to us quite how difficult that time was and your involvement.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It was a very challenging period, I think, for everyone within the travel industry, of course. And there was a point when Diamond Princess was in the news every single day. It was one of the more significant outbreaks of COVID outside of Wuhan at the time, and at the very heart, I think, of the initial crisis with the ship in Japan. And we, as a business, we had Diamond Princess, and then we had some issues with Grand Princess off California. Yeah. And I think at that point we realized that actually we had to make sure that we had people on the ground operating and supporting the fleet all around the world. And I was asked to go to Miami to look after 6 ships that we had operating off the east coast of the US at that time, in Caribbean itineraries, including Regal and Sky, and to work with a team and work with the ships on initially supporting them to continue with their programs. But quite quickly that switched to how do we get our guests home, and then how do we get the ships into what we were describing as a warm layup, and get the crew home, and really get to the point where we could wait out the pause and get ready to welcome guests back on board again. And I think at the time we didn't expect it to be as long as it has been, but of course a huge period of time has passed since then, and we're now ramping up and getting those ships back into service and ready to welcome those guests back on board once more.
Yeah, well, I remember very clearly where I was when that news came in that you were doing that voluntary pause. And of course, then, all the lines soon followed. We've all been on this big pause, but we're all very great news. We had even, good news this week as well regarding the restart of international cruise, which we can come on to. But let's talk now about how far we've come to get you to this point where you're going to start your domestic program on Regal Princess any minute. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you've been on board, so perhaps you can just talk us through some of the changes and the protocols and the things that have been put in place, and tell us what it was like to be back there with the crew.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was earlier this week, I stepped back on board Regal in Southampton. We did a bit of a test overnight on board, where we had a number of guests testing the new protocols and giving the crew an opportunity to try out all of their new training. So since we announced that we were going to return in the UK, we've spent the last 3 months really ramping up the crew, getting them trained on board, understanding how the new processes and protocols will work, making sure that the ship's well set up for it, and there's signage and directional indicators and things like that, and all the new processes are in place. And stepping on board earlier this week for the first time and speaking to the crew, you just got this overwhelming sense of joy from them to have guests back on board. And as I was walking around the ship, they were you know, sort of waving out and saying things like "we're back" and "we can't believe it" and "it's amazing to have people on board," and you know, so excited and really excited to be about to welcome our first true guests back on board to have that experience as well. And for everyone who joined us on Tuesday, I think the overwhelming feedback that we got was, you know, just the warmth and service and conscientious service of the crew was really outstanding, and it felt like coming home. And that was definitely my emotion getting back on board, was, you know, to feel part of that Princess family and to be, you know, back on the ship and have the crew doing what they love to do, was really quite emotional. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I imagine so. But with all the new measures you've put in place, are you still confident that any guests traveling will have a fantastic holiday? I mean, I know it's probably a fine balance, but did you get that sense that it still felt like if you were getting on board, you were going to have a great holiday?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I feel really confident about it, because I think there's a couple of factors here. I mean, clearly there are things that will be in place, protocols in place, which are there and designed to keep the guests safe, to keep the crew safe, and to protect the communities that we visit. And that's always going to be our number one priority. But actually, you can still have that amazing cruising experience. It's just with some of the measures that we've all become used to actually over the last year. And to be honest, Lucy, if we removed them now, it would feel really alien anyway. So it's all of the things that you're used to doing and that our guests will want to continue to do naturally, that we're continuing to keep in pace.
So are you talking about mask wearing in public areas, or when you're moving around the ship, are you? Or
yeah, absolutely. So there's things like, you know, we're saying that as you're moving around the public areas inside, it's really important to wear your mask. If you sit down, and whether you're just, you know, watching the world go by or having something to drink or eating something, then you can feel free to remove your mask. But when you're in the theatre, we're going to ask you to keep your mask on throughout, you know, throughout the time when you're sat in that theatre situation. So I think it's things that you would feel strange not doing anyway if you were, I don't know, going to a theatre here, shoreside, or visiting shops or a bar or a restaurant anyway. It's things that I think people are naturally going to do for some time. And I think actually there's a huge guest expectation that we'll continue to do that and continue to prioritise the health and safety of everybody on board.
Okay, all right, very good. And now just remind us then, the ship is sailing round the UK, making a couple of ports of call.
So yeah, initially with Regal, we've got some short cruises to nowhere. So some 3-night and some 4-night cruises that we're starting with throughout August. So really the ship becomes the destination. We've got amazing entertainment on board, and you know, the fine dining and opportunity to spend time out by the pools and enjoying the hot tubs and everything the ship has to offer. Of course, movies under the stars as well. Saw that all set up on Tuesday, ready to have guests watch their favourite film while sat outside. And you know, as we then move further through the season, we'll start to introduce ports of call and slightly longer cruises. So we'll get eventually up to 7-day sailings with 3 ports of call in September. But it's a very gradual reintroduction into sailing, and I think just an opportunity for our guests who love cruising to get away and enjoy some time on the ship, and really feel like they're having a break away from home as well.
Okay. Now, when we first spoke about these sailings, that you were, you know, the Seacations. By the way, well done. Everyone's picked up on that name. I think you started that one, but we've all been using it.
Definitely should have trademarked it.
I know you should. So when you first announced them, obviously you talked about how it would appeal to obviously some loyal princess guests, clearly who are just desperate to get back, but also you hoped it would, you know, attract a new to cruise market. What's, you know, been the reality? What's happened? How's it booked? What kind of people have been taking this type of cruise?
Yeah, so I think it was, you know, as you say, our expectation was that this would be a great opportunity to try a cruise, and we've certainly seen that. So initially, it was very, very popular with the past princess guests, and those were the people who booked when we initially went on sale for sure. But since then, actually, we've seen around about a 10% increase in new to princess guests than we would normally have seen. So we've seen a real shift from our typical past passenger booking rate into a 10% shift towards more new to cruise, which is really significant actually on the number of guests that we've got on these sailings as well. So so a huge number of guests who are, they may not be new to cruise, but they're certainly new to Princess and traveling on their first Princess cruise this summer.
Okay, and why do you think why do you think you've got them? And I noticed that your pricing had slightly changed since you launched. You started out, I think, a 3-night sailing at 539, but you're now offering some down at 389. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've done a number of things as we've kind of gone through the selling cycle, really. And we were, one thing that we've done is we've talked throughout about our all-inclusive messaging. So included drinks, best Wi-Fi at sea, of course, and all of your service charges, gratuities included within the fare. And we have 2 price points in the market. And initially, when we started, we were only selling balcony cabins and above, which is where our initial lead-in price came from. Since then, on some of the cruises, we've seen demand actually for some of the inside cabins to become available. So we've introduced a small number of inside cabins on a few of the sailings. It's only around about 100 guests per sailing, but actually it's given us also a new price point in the market. So that's the 389 that you mentioned, which is an all-inclusive fare as well. So 3 nights for 389, or effectively £130 a night all-inclusive. Which is, it's incredible value for money, really. So it's great to get those sort of price points out, and I think that is one of the things that also helps us to attract new to cruise into the market, because when they're comparing that value to to something else that they'd be able to do this summer in a staycation, where you've got all of your food and drink, all of your entertainment, your accommodation all included, it's just incredible value for money. So that's really helped us, I think, attract a new audience into the cruise market.
Yeah. And how about your agent partners? I know they've been crucial to you throughout this pandemic and helping you with all the refunds and all that kind of stuff. But have they got behind this program of Seacations?
Oh yeah, completely. We just couldn't do what we do without the partnership that we have with our trade partners, and the way that they work with Princess is just incredible. So we're hugely grateful for not just their support in selling these sailings through 21, but where they've been side by side with us throughout the whole pandemic over the last 16 months. Just an incredible debt of thanks to the partners out there who've worked with Princess. We really could not have done this without them, and that continues to be the case. So we've had huge success with many of our partners as we've been selling these Seacation holidays, and also just the future bookings into 22, and we just put Europe 23 on sale as well. Our partners working incredibly well with us there. So as always at Princess, we are hugely grateful for the way that we work with the trade partners and for all of the support that they give us.
All right. Well, we touched on it earlier. News this week that the Foreign Office had lifted its ban on international cruising. So, I mean, hugely significant, obviously. But I know that it now just aligns cruise with the rest of international travel. So it doesn't mean it's completely without its complexity. Obviously, we have to now follow the traffic light system, which isn't always straightforward. So, but what does it mean for Princess and your Fly Cruise program? And for agents who might be wanting to now book, or have customers that are interested in going a little bit further afield?
So I think, as you say, there's still some complexities to work through here, but what's hugely significant is that cruise is no longer singled out as a mode of transport here, and that's why this news is so welcome. That we have that specific advice against international cruising that's now been removed. So international cruise can now be considered pretty much like any other holiday, and the restrictions that apply to any kind of international travel will equally apply to cruise. So that's a great leveling, and I think provides an opportunity for us in the future to switch back to those international sailings. So we're sailing from the UK in October to international ports of call on round trip Southampton sailings, and also it means that actually we can now start to open up to UK guests on some of our other sailings that have started around the world. So we have Majestic Princess has been operating now for a week in Alaska. So if there are UK guests who wish to go to Alaska, of course, that's going to open up. And then as we get through to the autumn and beyond, we're sailing from the west coast and the east coast of the United States. And of course, Princess sails all over the world. And for our UK guests, actually, those fly cruise opportunities are hugely important. And it's been a significant growth area for us with our travel agent partners as well. So, it just opens up that opportunity even more to start getting guests having more confidence in their bookings for spring 22 right through to the end of summer 23.
Yeah. And in terms of the ex-Southampton sailings down to the Med, did you have ports of call in France, for example? Because that's going to be the difficult thing, isn't it? You're going to be going to multiple destinations, I assume.
Yes.
And then obviously, say France at the moment is Amber Plus. So will you be then not stopping in France? Will you be slightly changing your itinerary to sort of accommodate the particular British, restrictions?
So, we're keeping a close eye on it. We're not actually starting those sailings until the 30th of September, which is, still feels, we're a couple of months away from starting those international sailings. And I think if I rewound the clock 2 months, we're in an incredibly different position to the one we're at today. So we're dealing with a changing picture all the time, as is the rest of the travel industry. The cruises that we've got planned through October on Sky and Regal Princess are Spain and France itineraries, 1 week cruises to Spain and France. We've got a British Isles cruise. We've got some short breaks to the Netherlands and Belgium. And we've got a Canaries cruise and a longer Western Med within there as well. So there's a real variety, as you say, of destinations: Belgium, Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy, the Canaries as well. So there's a lot of planning that goes into that. But the nice thing with the cruise industry is that we can change our itineraries, we can pivot a little bit, so that if we continue to have challenges around certain destinations, then we'll be able to alter our plans, but hopefully still be able to operate those cruises as planned. So that's, I think, is the key thing. And I think also our guests understand that. They understand the environment that we're operating in, and appreciate the ability to flex it, and that there may be some changes between now and then. But we're hoping that we can, that we'll be in such a position that we'll just be able to operate those itineraries as planned. And they're again, well booked, because they were part of our original published program. So there's lots of guests, I think, who are looking forward to return to international cruising with Princess. Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, one thing we haven't talked about, but you and I have talked about a lot over the years, is your ocean medallion, and particularly in a sort of post-pandemic world, the sort of frictionless travel, the contactless travel, so that you can, really feel even more reassured. That, of course, is going to be on these sailings out of the UK. It's on Regal and on Sky. So just before we go, just explain to us, how excited you are that UK guests are going to be able to experience that.
No, I think it's an incredible opportunity for us. All of the ships coming back will be Medallion class, so it's definitely something that will be completely synonymous with the Princess experience. And having experienced it myself, as I did the test overnight on board earlier this week, just simple things like the crew member knowing your name as you approach them and welcoming you to a venue or something like that. It's a lovely personal touch. And having your preferences understood, being able to find your way around the ship, look at the entertainment options, contactless payment, ordering drinks or food from wherever you are on the ship. It makes the experience that much simpler, and you can really maximize your holiday time, because you don't have to wait in line or stand in line. And we've been talking a lot about embarkation and disembarkation as well. And that we've got some added complications and processes which are of course necessary around testing guests and going through additional health screening and things like that. But actually, once you're ocean ready before you arrive, the walking on the ship couldn't be simpler, and you're just welcomed on board by the crew, and your cabin door opens automatically for you. So all of those things, I think, will really help our guests to maximize their time on holiday and really just enjoy everything that these ships have to offer.
And presumably on Tuesday you had to go through that kind of ocean ready process. So being double vaccinated, did you have to have a test or show a test?
So we're offering 2 solutions for testing when you arrive, and I've tried both of them now. So one of them is if you're arriving by car, you do a drive-through test. So you're tested while you're sat in your vehicle, and then you go and park and head into the terminal. And then I did the walk up on Tuesday when I got on board. I did a walk up test, and it's very quick process. And then you get a text message to say, to give you your result. And once you have your result, you're then able to proceed through the check-in process, pick up your medallion, and head straight on board. And when I did it on Tuesday, for me, it was about 25 minutes from arrival at the terminal to being on the ship. So very, very efficient.
Yeah, so it's an extra step that people might be nervous about, but actually you're saying it's very seamless and essentially very, very quick. I mean, I've taken a lot longer to embark on a ship before, when there hasn't been that extra sort of COVID protocol in place. So
absolutely. And we were, it's a test process and it was smaller numbers, but it just shows how quick the experience can be. And I think, you see, if I compare it to the steps that you have to go through right now if you want to go on a package holiday internationally, versus how easy it is to get on one of these UK cruises, and the fact that the test is included in the price of your holiday as well, it really is fantastic value for money. And with the Ocean Medallion, you can just get to the point where you're enjoying your holiday time much more quickly.
Okay, so just to finish then, on that note, Tony, given that it's such an attractive offer, is there still availability through August and September to try?
There is, with the first few cruises now are completely sold out through to the middle of August, but then from the middle of August onwards, there is limited space available. And then there's some space through in September on Sky and Regal as well. So it's we only went on sale in March with these cruises, and there's definitely been a few bumps in the road in terms of people having the confidence to book. But the cruises are there's very strong demand now, and the cruises are filling up quickly.
All right. Well, let's hope you get all your capacity filled and everyone has a fantastic time. And I just wish you all the best. I know it's been a real roller coaster for you and your whole team, Tony. I wish you all the best for your first sailing. As you said, it will be pretty emotional, I'm sure, but it's just great to see you getting back to service.
No, thank you, Lucy. And I think it has been a challenging few months, but I think it'll all be worth it when we see those first guests step on board on Saturday morning.
Yeah, and then we want them to post loads of pictures about what a great time they're having, and then hopefully even more people will try. All right, well, look, all the best, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Tony Roberts from Princess Cruises. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.